She didn't just roll her eyes at the judge. She winked. The whole courtroom saw it. That slow, lazy wink people use when they think they're the smartest person in the room. Let's be quick. Sweetheart, she said, crossing one perfect leg over the other. I've got a board meeting at 3. This, she flicked a manicured hand around the courtroom, isn't exactly my usual calendar. The room went dead quiet. On the bench, Judge Harper Cole didn't move. Late 50s, small frame, razor-sharp eyes. She had that particular kind of stillness that makes noise back away on its own. The camera zoomed in, catching every glint from the defendant's diamond choker. Her name was Veronica Lane, owner and face of Lane Looks, a beauty empire stuffed with glossy magazine covers, billboards, and sponsored posts. She had 3 million followers, a private elevator, and a reputation for letting people go, like she was deleting emails. Today, she was suing one of them. Across from her sat Layla Ortiz, plain black slacks, thrift store blouse, hair pulled into a low bun that still held the memory of long shifts. No design or anything. Just a small, overstuffed envelope clutched in both hands, edges softened by how often she'd gripped it. Calling the matter of Lane versus Ortiz, the clerk announced. Parties, please stand. Veronica didn't. The bailiff's jaw tightened. Ms. Lane up? She sighed like someone had asked her to climb Everest. Fine, she muttered, standing with theatrical slowness. Happy now? Judge Harper tilted her head. You stand when the clerk says stand, she said quietly. You don't add commentary. Understood? Veronica smiled, teeth flawless, tone dripping sugar. Of course, Your Honor, she cooed. I'm just not used to this environment. You are now, Harper replied. Sit, they did. The contrast between them was jarring. One glittering, posed, expensive. The other small, tired, but somehow more solid than anyone else in the room. Ms. Lane, the judge began, glancing at the file. You're suing Ms. Ortiz for $15,000. You allege she stole a limited edition designer handbag from your penthouse. Correct? That's right, Veronica said, instantly slipping into her camera voice, the one she used in ads. Custom crocodile. 1 of 10 in the world. Sent to me personally by the brand. She walked out with it the night I fired her. She, the judge repeated. Does she have a name? Veronica blinked, caught off guard. Layla, the judge said, nodding toward the plaintiff. You worked with her for how long? Veronica waved a hand. 3 years, 4? It's not relevant. She was paid well. She stole from me. End of story. Harper's pen tapped once, a tiny sound that carried heavy meaning. I'll decide when the story ends, the judge said. For now, we're at the beginning. Ms. Ortiz, how do you respond to the allegation that you stole this bag? Layla's fingers tightened on the envelope. When she spoke, her voice was soft, but it didn't shake. I didn't steal anything, Your Honor, she said. I was fired without notice. She told me to leave immediately. I left with what I came with. That's a lie, Veronica cut in. We have footage. You will speak when I ask you to, Judge Harper snapped. And the edge in her tone finally sliced through Veronica's confidence. Yes. Ma'am, Veronica muttered. The judge turned back to Layla. How did your employment end? She asked. Layla took a breath. 2 months ago, she said. Ms. Lane called me into her dressing room. She was upset. A brand had pulled out of the campaign. She started throwing things. Makeup, shoes. I tried to calm her down. She said I'd brought in bad energy and that she didn't want people like me in her space anymore. The words landed heavy. People like you. The judge repeated. Layla's eyes dropped. Workers, Your Honor, people she doesn't post. A couple of people in the back row shifted uncomfortably. She told me I was done, Layla continued. Said the driver would drop me at the subway. I packed my backpack. My jacket, that's it. When I got home, there was an email from HR saying I'd been terminated for theft in progress. The bag, Judge Harper said. Layla nodded. She claimed I took it. But when I left, it was hanging on the mirror. The same way it always did. So you're telling this court, the judge said. That your employer falsely accused you of theft? On the same day she fired you for bad energy? Yes, Your Honor, Layla said. Veronica scoffed dramatically. She's very creative. I should have put her in marketing. The judge's gaze snapped toward her. Miss Lane, she said flatly. I've watched you roll your eyes, wink at me, and now mock the person you're accusing of a crime. You're one comment away from finding out what contempt of court feels like. Sit on your hands if you have to, but keep your mouth closed unless I open it. Are we clear? For the first time, Veronica's smile slipped. We're clear, she said. Good, Harper replied. She lifted a glossy printout from the file. This, she said, is the purchase receipt for the bag in question. It shows a retail price of $15,400. It's dated 6 months ago. Purchased under Lane Looks, Inc. She lifted another sheet, and this, she added, is your insurance claim from 2 days after Ms. Ortiz was terminated, reporting that same bag as stolen, with a declared value of $22,000. She paused. Any reason the value increased? She asked. Veronica's smile clicked back into place. The secondary market, she said confidently. Collectors pay more. My brand adds value. You can Google it. I did, the judge said. We'll get there. Her pen tapped the side of the receipt. What interests me right now, she continued, is that both of these forms, the purchase and the claim, have the same handwriting on lines that are supposed to be filled out by 2 different people. She held them side by side for the camera. Same loops. Same numbers. Same pressure, she said. Care to explain that, Miss Lane? For the first time since she walked in, Veronica hesitated. My assistant fills those out, she said. She knows my preferences. You can ask her. The judge's eyes shifted to the second row. Far right dot to the young woman in a simple blazer, hands clasped tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on her shoes. Ms. Singh? Judge Harper called. Could you step forward, please? Veronica's head snubbed around. Priya? She hissed. Sit down. This doesn't stop talking, the judge said, her patience evaporating. Now, because whatever was written in those loops and curves of blue ink was about to pull this case out of stolen bag territory and drag it straight into something much uglier. And Miss Lane had no idea the real file on her wasn't even open yet. Asterisk. By the time Priya reached the witness stand, her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped her bag. The bailiffs swore her in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, she whispered. State your name and role, Judge Harper said. Priya Singh, she replied. Personal assistant to Ms. Lane. Until last week. Last week? The judge's pen paused. Not current? Priya glanced quickly at Veronica, then away. No, Your Honor, she said. She let me go. On what basis? Harper asked. Silence stretched. Priya, the judge said, tone soft but firm. You're under oath. Whatever pressure you're feeling from that side of the room, she nodded toward Veronica. It doesn't reach up here. Why were you fired? Priya swallowed. She said I'd forgotten my place, she murmured. Because I refused to sign another insurance form. Gasps fluttered through the courtroom. Veronica slammed her hand on the table. Judge, this is insane. She's bitter I replaced her. Sit, Harper snapped. Or I'll have the bailiff move you there himself. Veronica dropped back into her seat. Scowling. Miss Singh, the judge continued. Did you fill out the insurance claim for the allegedly stolen handbag? Priya nodded. Yes, she told me to. Did you also fill out this purchase receipt? Harper held it up. Double quotes. No, Your Honor, Priya said. That line was copied from an older receipt she gave me. The judge's eyes sharpened. Older? She repeated. From when? Asterisk. Priya licked her lips. 2 years ago, she said. For a different bag. Same model. She had sold that one already, but wanted the numbers to match for consistency. A low, stunned murmur swept the room. Veronica laughed, high and brittle. This is ridiculous. Receipts look the same all the time. She's confused. Are you confused, Miss Singh? Judge Harper asked. Priya's spine straightened, just a bit. No, she said quietly. I know what I did. And I know why. Why? The judge pressed. Because, Priya whispered, she told me if I didn't, Layla would take the fall for it. And I'd be next. Layla's eyes flew wide. She what? The judge turned to her. Asterisk. You two spoke after you were fired. She asked. Layla shook her head. No, Your Honor. We weren't allowed to have each other's numbers. She nodded toward Veronica, said mixing staff levels was messy. Priya's cheeks flushed with shame. I found Layla's email on the HR system, she admitted. I thought about warning her, but I didn't. I was scared. Harper let that sit for a moment. Asterisk. Tell me exactly what Ms. Lane said, she instructed. When she asked you to fill out the claim. Priya's voice dropped, but the mic caught every word. She said, the bag's gone. Insurance will cover it if you make the paperwork clean. She swallowed. I asked if we should file a police report. She said, cops are for street crime, not brand management. A couple of people in the back row let out quiet, disbelieving laughs. I told her. Priya continued, but Layla didn't take it. I checked the footage. The judge sat up a little straighter. The footage? She asked. What footage? Building security, Priya said. The cameras in the private elevator hall. I saw the bag on the hook after Layla left, and then gone an hour later. No one from staff went in or out. Who did? The judge asked. Priya hesitated. Ms. Lane, she said. She came back from dinner with friends. She was tipsy, happy. She took a bunch of selfies with the bag, then went into her dressing room. The bag never reappeared on the next recordings. So the last person who had possession of the bag, Harper said slowly, was your boss. Yes, Your Honor, Priya replied. And yet you wrote a claim saying it was stolen by staff. The judge added. Yes, Priya whispered. She dictated it to me. Judge Harper held up the insurance form. In your handwriting, she said. You wrote, we believe the theft was committed by our former household employee, who was dismissed that same night. Priya nodded miserably. Did you believe that? The judge asked. No, Priya said. But my rent depends on my job. My mother's medicine depends on my job. I thought it was just one form. One bag. The company would pay. No one would really get hurt. Her eyes shone with tears. I didn't understand, she added, that it would follow Layla forever. Layla stared at her. 1,000 different emotions fighting in her eyes. Betrayal, understanding. Exhaustion, Mr. Benton, Judge Harper called suddenly. A man in a suit 3 rows back jolted, adjusting his glasses. Yes, Your Honor, he said, standing. State your role, she said. Elliot Benton, he replied. Building manager at the Astral Residences, where Ms. Lane's penthouse is located. And did my office subpoena your security footage from the night in question? She asked. Yes, he said. I provided a copy. And what did you see on that footage? Harper asked. He cleared his throat. What Ms. Singh described, he said. Ms. Ortiz exiting with only a backpack and coat. The bag visible on the wall behind her. No staff after. Then Ms. Lane returning. She leaves again an hour later. The bag is gone. Any signs of forced entry? The judge asked. None, Benton said. The only access logs are Ms. Lane and a delivery from a luxury consignment service the next morning. The room buzzed. Consignment service? The judge repeated. For what? For high-end resale, Benton said. They send a courier to pick up items for auction. Ms. Lane uses them regularly. Veronica let out a short laugh, leaning forward. So what? She snapped. I sell things all the time. That doesn't prove anything. No, Judge Harper agreed calmly. What proves something is the serial number. She flipped another page in the file, then held it up. This, she said, is an email from LuxLoop Resale, received pursuant to subpoena. It confirms receipt of a Lane Lux crocodile bag, serial number ending in 784, picked up from your building 12 hours after you claimed it stolen. She glanced at the original purchase receipt. Same serial, she said. Same bag. For a heartbeat, time stretched out, then the reality landed on everyone in the room at once. The bag hadn't disappeared into thin air. Veronica had sold it and then charged the insurance company for it while blaming the woman who used to wipe her counters. So tell me, Ms. Lane, Judge Harper said softly, why should I believe a single word you've said in this courtroom? The influencer who thought she could buy the narrative finally had nothing to post, and the folder the judge hadn't opened yet, the one with Veronica's company finances, was still sitting there, waiting to finish what this evidence had started. For the first time all morning, Veronica looked truly rattled. Her laugh, that polished, brand-safe cackle, died halfway out of her throat. That email is taken out of context, she said, voice pitching higher. My assistant handles all that. She probably mixed up the bags. I own dozens. Not for long, someone in the gallery muttered. Judge Harper ignored the commentary. Ms. Lane, she said, you filed a claim saying this bag was stolen. You told this court your ex-employee walked out with it. Yet we have video of you as the last person holding it and a resale company documenting it in their inventory the next morning. That is not mixed up. That looks like fraud. It was a mistake, Veronica insisted. Paperwork, numbers, I approve concepts. Not fine print. Funny, Harper said. Because you seemed very involved in your fine print when you wrote Ms. Ortiz's name into that claim. She turned back to Priya. Did you include Ms. Ortiz's name on this form on your own? Or on instruction? She asked. On instruction, Priya said, voice almost a whisper. Ms. Lane said, right, that the maid took it. They always believe it when it's staff. Layla flinched as though struck. The audience murmured, anger bubbling under the shock. Judge Harper's jaw tightened. Ms. Lane, she said, did you call Ms. Ortiz the maid in that conversation? Veronica rolled her eyes. I call all my domestic staff that. It's not an insult, it's their job. It's a title, Harper replied. Not a name. Remember that. She set the claim form down and finally pulled forward the thick, unopened folder that had been sitting at the edge of her bench since the hearing began. This, she said, tapping it, is what we obtained when we ran your name and your company through public records. Lane Lux, Inc. has quite the history. Veronica forced a smile back onto her face. Of course it does, she said. We're successful. We're busy. That's one interpretation, the judge said. Another would be, you are drowning. She opened the folder. 3 pending lawsuits from vendors for non-payment, she read. 2 from former employees over withheld bonuses. 1 investigation by the State Labor Board regarding unpaid overtime. And here, she lifted a separate document, a notice of default on a business line of credit secured by your penthouse. Veronica's fingers dug into the table. That's confidential, she snapped. Not when it's filed with the court, Harper replied. You were 60 days from foreclosure on that unit? The gasp from the gallery was almost physical. Layla stared, stunned. You told me your mortgage was just a formality, she said, words tumbling out before she could stop them. That people like you don't worry about payments. Veronica glared at her. Shut up. You will not tell her to shut up, Judge Harper said sharply. You will answer my questions? She held up another sheet. A year ago, she said, Lane Lux's pension fund for employees had a healthy balance. Today, it's nearly empty. Do you know why, Ms. Lane? Veronica's stare went flat, dangerous. That has nothing to do with this case, she said. It has everything to do with your credibility, Harper replied. These records show multiple temporary loans from the pension account into your personal accounts. Large ones, never repaid. How many of your warehouse workers know you've been spending their retirement on your brand's image? The room hummed with low, outraged whispers. A middle-aged woman in the back, a Lane Lux packer still in her logo t-shirt, put a hand over her mouth. I thought we were safe, she whispered to her neighbor. HR said our pensions were guaranteed. The judge's gaze slid to her. Ma'am, she said. Did you work for Lane Lux? The woman stood, nodding nervously. 12 years, she said. Packing orders. We were so proud when Ms. Lane made it big. We thought she'd take us with her. Harper looked back at Veronica. And did you? She asked. Take them with you? Veronica's composure finally cracked. You have no idea what it takes to stay on top, she burst out. The deals, the expectations. If I look weak, I lose everything. The house, the brand, the respect. You think I moved that money because I like stealing from people? I was buying time. You were buying silence, the judge corrected. Time runs out. Silence breaks. Here we are. She tapped the claim form again. Asterisk. You filed a fake theft to squeeze money from insurance. You blamed an innocent employee knowing it would kill her chances at other work. You drained your staff's pensions to fund your lifestyle. And you walked into this courtroom smirking. Veronica's eyes flashed with something like panic and rage mashed together. I built this from nothing, she said, voice shaking. My mother scrubbed floors. I swore I never would. You think I'm going back to that? You think I'll let some cleaner drag me down? Careful, Judge Harper said quietly. You're describing the very people whose money you've been using as your personal ATM. Priya let out a soft, strangled sound. She hasn't paid the junior team in 2 weeks, she blurted. She told me to put their checks on hold until a new sponsor deal cleared. But her own transfer too. This, she gestured vaguely. It went through on time. Veronica spun on her. You ungrateful little enough, the judge snapped. Both of you sit, breathe. They did. For a moment, the only sound was the faint tapping of the judge's pen. You know what I see when I look at all this? She asked finally. What? Veronica spat. A scared woman, Harper said simply. Terrified of being poor again. Terrified of being seen as ordinary. So terrified, she forgot where survival ends and theft begins. Veronica blinked, taken aback by the shift in tone. This doesn't erase what you did, the judge continued. But it explains why you thought you could walk in here and buy the story. You've been buying stories your whole life, PR, posts, press. This time, the story is not for sale. She leaned forward. Here's the part you're not going to like, she said. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to rule. That ruling will be on record. People will watch it. Your followers will clip it. Brands will see it. You can either walk out of here still pretending you did nothing wrong, or you can start telling the truth before I do it for you. The room held its breath. Veronica looked from the judge, to Layla, to the packer in the back, to Priya. Her hand, always so perfectly posed in photos, now trembled. What difference does it make? She said, voice quieter. You've already decided I'm guilty. I've decided the evidence is, Harper said. Who you are after I read it out loud. That's still up to you. The influencer who'd built an empire on controlling. Her narrative stared at the one place she couldn't, and for the first time, she didn't reach for a line, she just closed her eyes. How much, she asked hoarsely, of me do you want? Start with the part that stole from them, the judge said, pointing at Layla, Priya, and the worker in the back. Then we'll see if there's anything left worth saving. Because sometimes the only way to teach someone they can't buy justice is to make them feel the cost of losing everything it once could protect. When Veronica opened her eyes again, the room seemed different, the lights felt harsher. The bench seemed higher. The distance between her and Layla felt miles wider. I didn't mean to hurt her, she said, surprising everyone, maybe even herself. Layla, she kept my life from falling apart for 3 years. She worked holidays, nights. She brought me ginger tea when I lost my voice before shoots. I knew her mother's medical appointments better than my own. I respected her. Layla's brows knit in confusion. You respected me? She asked softly. Is that what this is? Veronica winced. I respected what you did for me, she corrected. That's not the same. Judge Harper nodded once. There's a difference, she agreed. Veronica rubbed her temples. When the contract started collapsing, she said, staring at the table, I panicked. You have no idea what it's like to wake up and see 100 comments about how you're irrelevant now, how your era is over. I couldn't breathe. I thought, if people see me losing things, they'll leave. Brands, followers, everyone. So you staged losing the bag instead? The judge said. Veronica gave a tiny nod. It was supposed to be small, she said. A blip. Insurance pays, I pay the minimum on the mortgage. We make it to the next quarter. I thought, no one really gets hurt. Companies write off losses all the time. Her voice cracked. When the claim adjuster asked who had access, she continued. I froze. If I said no one, it doesn't look believable. If I said I'm careless, my rates go up. And then I remembered. Her eyes flicked to Layla. You were already gone, she said. They'd never question a story where the maid steals the rich woman's things. It fit their movie. Layla recoiled like she'd been slapped. You used my whole life as aesthetic, she said, to make your fraud feel real. Tears finally spilled down Veronica's cheeks, dragging lines through her foundation. I'm sorry, she choked. I told myself you'd be fine. That someone like you always finds work. I moved my guilt into this little box in my head and filled it with excuses. And the pension? Judge Harper asked quietly. Is that in its own box too? Veronica swallowed hard. That wasn't supposed to be permanent, she said. Market dipped. Investors pulled. I had payroll, rent, obligations. I moved the money temporarily, then another crisis hit. Then another. I kept finding reasons to delay putting it back. The worker in the back, 12 years packing boxes for lame mugs, let out a low, wounded sound. We trusted you, she said. We wore your logo. We told our kids we worked for a good company. Veronica turned, eyes raw. I know, she said, and I took that trust and turned it into runway lighting. That is the most honest sentence you've said, Judge Harper said. Too bad it's not the one you open with. A faint, mirthless laugh flickered through the room. Priya dabbed at her eyes. I'm so sorry. Layla, she whispered across the aisle. I should have refused. Or warned you, or something. Layla looked at her for a long moment. You were afraid, she said simply. Like I was. Like everyone in that building was sooner or later. She glanced at Veronica. That's what she sells, she said. Fear, wrapped in lipstick and filters. The judge's pen lay idle now. She wasn't writing. She was listening. You're not the first person, Harper said to Veronica, to claw their way out of poverty and then forget what people down there feel like. But you might be one of the few who gets their whole fall televised. A small, bitter smile tugged at the corner of Veronica's mouth. Lucky me, she said hoarsely. Luck had very little to do with this, the judge replied. Choices did. She straightened. Here's the thing, Miss Lane, she continued. No matter how honest you are right now, I can't erase what you did to Layla's record. I can't magically refill the pension account. I can't unsend the emails where you told the world she was a thief. Those things exist. They have consequences. Veronica nodded, tears clinging to her lashes. I know, she whispered, but, Harper added, I can decide whether this courtroom is where your lying stops, or just where it learns to get smarter. She looked at Layla. Is there anything you want to say to her? She asked, before I rule. Layla's lips pressed together. There were 100 things she could have said. 1,000 angry lines. Every time she'd bitten her tongue while being called staff like it was a slur. Every night she'd lain awake, wondering how she'd feed her mother after someone with 10 handbags to her name wrote thief next to her stot instead. She asked one question, was I ever a person to you? She asked Veronica, or just part of the furniture that moved when you told it to? It landed heavier than any accusation. Veronica's shoulders slumped. You were... She frowned, searching for a word that didn't make her sound worse. Useful, loyal, I relied on you. That's not being a person, Layla said. That's being a tool. Priya wiped at her cheeks again. I'm done being a tool, she whispered. Maybe to herself, maybe to the room. Judge Harper took it all in. Then picked up her ruling pad. Sit down, she said gently. They did. The scratching of her pen across paper sounded louder than any gavel. When she finished, she looked up, gaze steadier than it had been all day. Here's what's going to happen, she said. Listen carefully. And for once, even Veronica did, because this part was no longer about spin dot, it was about cost dot real. Undeniable, no filter cost. Miss Lane, Judge Harper said. Your claim against Ms. Ortiz for theft is dismissed. With prejudice. Veronica's eyes closed briefly, like she'd been expecting it, but hoping the universe would glitch. This court finds, the judge continued, that you knowingly filed a false insurance claim, falsely named Ms. Ortiz as a suspect, and then repeated that falsehood here under oath. That alone is grounds for referral to the authorities. She lifted the insurance form. This document, she said, and the evidence we've seen today will be forwarded to the State Insurance Fraud Division. They can decide what charges, if any, are appropriate. A visible shudder passed through Veronica. Additionally, Harper went on, the matter of the pension withdrawals and unpaid wages is beyond the scope of this particular case, but not beyond the reach of the law. These records, she tapped the financial documents, will be sent to the State Labor Board and the Attorney General's office. If you thought this was your biggest problem today, Miss Lane, I'm afraid you're mistaken. The worker in the back let out a shaky sigh of relief. Now we address Ms. Ortiz, the judge said. Softening as she turned. Layla, she said, you lost your job without warning. You were branded a thief in official records. You have likely been denied work because of this accusation. You have suffered emotional distress and financial loss. Layla nodded, throat tight. Do you have an estimate, the judge asked, of lost income since your termination? Layla cleared her throat. My attorney helped me figure it out, she said. With overtime and night differentials? Around $32,000 so far, Your Honor. And that doesn't account for reputational damage, Harper added. This court awards you $45,000 in damages. Layla's eyes widened. You will receive this amount, the judge continued, from Miss Lane personally. Not from Lane Lux, not from an insurance company. From you, Miss Lane. Your account. Your name. Veronica stiffened. I don't have, she began. You had money for resale bags and private chefs. Harper cut in. You can find it to repair at least a fraction of the life you trampled. Priya bit her lip, then spoke up. Your Honor, she said. If she can't find it, she cut staff pay again. The judge nodded, acknowledging the point. That is exactly why, she said. This judgment will be recorded, and any future bankruptcy court will see it. Running away from this debt will not be simple. She turned back to Layla. Furthermore, she said, my office will issue a formal statement clearing your name. It will be sent to Lane Lux, to the building management, and to any prospective employer who contacts the court about this case. It will state clearly that the allegation of theft was false and retaliatory. Layla covered her mouth. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me, Harper said. You did the hardest part by showing up. She shifted to Priya. Miss Singh, she said, you participated in creating false documents. That is serious. However, you also came here, told the truth, and accepted responsibility. That counts for something. Priya nodded, tears threatening again. I'm not issuing a penalty against you today, the judge continued. But understand this. If you are ever in a room again where someone with power asks you to write a lie, remember how this feels. And remember that your signature travels further than your fear. Yes, Your Honor, Priya said. I'll never do this again. Good, Harper replied. She glanced at the packer in the back. As for the pension issue, she said, I advise every Lane Lux employee watching this, keep your records. Pay stubs, email, statements. You may need them. The woman nodded vigorously. Finally, the judge turned one last time to Veronica. You wanted a verdict that let you walk out of here still looking like the victim? She said. You're not going to get it. Not from me, and not from the record. Veronica stared at her, eyes hollow. Is there anything? Harper asked. You want to say to Ms. Ortiz before we adjourn? Veronica looked as if the question physically hurt. She turned her head, meeting Layla's gaze head-on for the first time without the buffer of staff, schedules, or status. I'm sorry, she said simply. No disclaimers. No, if or but, just that. For what? Layla asked. She deserved the details. For using your name as a shield, Veronica said. For assuming the world would believe the maid stole from me instead of questioning if I was lying. For taking advantage of how hard it is for you to fight back? For making you pay the price for my fear? Layla studied her, expression unreadable. And for calling us people like you, she added, voice small. Veronica swallowed. Yes, she said. For that too. People like me, Layla said. Survive people like you every day. The line hit somewhere deep in the room. Priya let out a shaky breath. Half a laugh, half a sob. Judge Harper's mouth twitched. Almost a smile, then set back into its usual line. You're done today. Miss Lane, she said. But your work is not. You can't fix what you did with one apology and one check. You've spent years building a house out of people's backs. If there's any decency left in you, you'll start spending the next years paying them back with money, with truth, with whatever spotlight you have left. Veronica didn't answer, maybe because, for the first time, she didn't have a prepackaged reply. Harper lifted the gavel. In this courtroom, she said, looking out over everyone, including the cameras, we don't care how many followers you have, what you drive, or what your penthouse view looks like. We care about what you do to the people who can't afford to fight you. She brought the gavel down, sharp and clean. Judgment for the plaintiff, she said. Court is adjourned. The crack echoed. People began to rise, but for a second, no one moved. Layla stayed seated, fingers still cradling the letter with the court stamp clearing her name. It looked small. It felt enormous. Veronica remained at her table, staring at the space where the judge had been. Her diamond choker still sparkled under the lights. It had never looked so cheap. Outside this fake courtroom, the real world would keep moving. Sponsorships would be dropped or defended. Hashtags would fly. Comments would flood in. Some viewers would say, she got what she deserved. Others would say, the judge went too far. The only opinion that would really matter in the long run, though, would be the one Veronica lived with at 3 a.m., when there was no ring light, no glam squad, no assistant to sign her lies. Just a simple, brutal question, now that she finally knows she can't buy truth. Will she change who she is? Or just learn how to hide it better? That answer doesn't get decided in a courtroom. It gets decided the next time someone like Layla stands in front of someone like her. And that person chooses whether to use fear or decency. Which one would you choose? And are you sure